COPWATCH, policing the police every single day. And doing what the Charlotte County Sun newspaper and local TV stations won't do every single day. Hey, Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH. I'm going to make a comment before we play this video, but there's a guy named Andrew Hallinan, Andy the gun guy, and he found Rogue Nation out doing an audit, holding our government accountable, which our founding fathers told us to do. And apparently Andy Hallinan is another Trump cop-sucking fascist. And he found him, and he's got a gun shop. It's all here on his page. You can find it and everything. And he had a debate with them last night, and it was disgusting. I'm going to alter it here in a second to make it my own video. But yeah, I don't think this guy has read the Constitution. I think he's read Mein Kampf. It was an hour and 10 minutes of, it was like talking to a cop. It was fucking insane, just disgusting. This guy does not, you know what? This guy does not deserve a gun until he knows what our founding fathers did, said, and he knows the Constitution, because this fucking fucked in the head, man. So, and then, but I will admit this, he is letting free speech reign. I was kind of shocked about this. There was people that were commenting from all over the place. Lot of copsuckers on here. Really disgusting. Free speech was here. Charlotte County Sheriff hates free speech was here. Charlotte County, Florida COPWATCH was here. But this could be hidden, and I could be seeing it because, when it's hidden, you think it's there, but it's not. So, I don't know. COPWATCH or Charlotte County Sheriff. So, this guy's got to be a friend of Gary Snow's. No doubt about it, man. But this is disgusting. He does not deserve a gun until he actually knows about what our founding fathers did, what they said, what the Constitution is, because this shit, we should just make friends with cops. Really? Tell you what, they can go first, because they're not making friends. They're making enemies, and they are at war with us. It is disgusting. So without ado, we will play the disgusting video chat that they had. Remember what our founding fathers said, take a goddamn country back, and you're a frog in a pot, the water's gone, get the hell out and fight stupid people like Andy Hallinan.
Data over, and let me just refresh my channels and make sure, and Rogue, if you want to look at yours, Solo, I know we're not looking on your channels here just yet, but feel free to mirror and post. But it looks like Restream is working, and it does look like the feed has made it into at least one of my channels here. Yep, we've got it live, guys. Well, welcome. I appreciate you guys joining. This is Andy the Gun Guy. I am live right now with Solo Yaker and Rogue Nation, and we've got a really interesting conversation tonight that is well overdue. So, guys, I really appreciate y'all joining tonight.
Oh, man, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And so,
absolutely. Thanks for having us. Happy moment.
Hey, yeah, appreciate you coming on. What I want to do is, a lot of our people, they might know Solo Yaker, but not Rogue Nation. They might know Andy the Gun Guy, so on and so forth. So I'm going to kind of bring you in with a video clip. And again, this is my first time kind of running a Zoom live show. So as people are watching, feel free to take a look. And if anybody sees any sort of thing that that is not, not looking right or anything like that, feel free to comment and let us know if the sound's not working or, anything like that. But what I'm going to do is, Solo, I'm going to play a clip from your channel first. This is something that, a lot of people heard about, really, it kind of put you on the map a little bit. And then I'm going to have you chat about it just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and we're going to go to my desktop, grab the meeting here. And Solo, I'm just going to fast forward to where it kind of gets nuts here. So Solo, give us a little bit of a background on this.
Yeah, at this point, I think right now we're talking to the park ranger, and we actually have a pamphlet or a piece of paper that has the entire 790.25 section 3H, and he's like, oh, I don't care about it, da 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 da, and he gets on the phone and starts calling the police, and then it jumps I think a little bit further. they basically, we see him coming. It's a long pier, and we see him coming, and they're like,
is that them coming right there?
Yeah, that was them coming, and they're stacked up on each other, 4x4, or they're 4 person side by side, and And I at this point, the camera, this is going live on Facebook. And then it was just guns drawn, like and then the commands were very different. There was like hands up, hands down, don't reach for the gun type stuff. And I'm just like, all right, man, look, we had no intention to hurt nobody. Like, I'm gonna just stick my hands up. That's it.
So all these guys are literally coming at you with their guns in their hands, specifically because you're open carrying. That's it. Nobody's got a gun in their hand. Nobody's got a gun, you know, anything like that.
We barely talked to anybody on that pier that day. We'd been there for 30 minutes.
Wild. Wild. So for those of you who don't know Solo Yaker, he is an awesome YouTuber with a really wonderful channel here that represents a lot in the freedom world, right? You know, that basically comes together and, you know, gets guys going out there fishing. They need to understand their rights, you know, and so on and so forth. Solo, tell us a little bit more about what you do here.
Yeah, a lot of what I do is, you know, I saw what this stems back a couple years from like the Parkland little thing that happened. And I saw what they were trying to do about trying to take away gun rights and how they were trying to strip away specifically the AR or the AK platform. That was their goal, and it still is their goal today, and it's whatever. But I saw it then, and I still see it now, and I was like, you know something, I'm going to fight for this, because this is very important to not just me, my family, but to millions of other people. And if we don't have somebody to stand up, or at least express it and say, hey, I'm going to fight for this right, that's what my channel has come across. And then now it's gone into politicians that are trying to take it, and so on and so forth. And if they're willing to take my rights, I'm willing to go to them and fight back for my rights.
100%. Well said. So I think that for everybody watching on YouTube, everybody watching on Facebook, you know, if you support, you know, exercising our freedoms, hit the thumbs up button. If you support, you know, calling out law enforcement when they, you know, need to be called out, these officers on the pier obviously were, you know, in a very dangerous situation where they were completely wrong. Solo was exercising his Second Amendment rights. In Florida, you're allowed to open carry while hunting, fishing, camping, traveling to or from one of those activities, or traveling to or from a shooting range, which allows him to exercise his rights while fishing. Then if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, right? If we're on a pier, we're fishing, you know, or we're onshore fishing, you know, gators, water moccasins, you know, people coming up behind you trying to rob you, you know, all of these things have occurred. You know, open carry is definitely something that that makes sense. So I appreciate you doing that. And, you know, just give us a quick update. You know, is that whole case over? Or?
No, we're hoping by the end of maybe this year, hopefully it'll be all, whatever happens, but hopefully by the end of the year. And that will be about 2.5 years of this litigation going on.
Wild. That's crazy. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. So we are also joined, and I appreciate you being on, Solo. We are also joined with Rogue Nation, who is, you know, another freedom-loving patriot here. I'm going to go ahead and play a clip. This was one of my favorite clips here. Of you know what? Before I even play it, let's Rogue Nation, go ahead and give us your quick intro, you know, in your own words. You know, tell us what it is that you do, and, you know, how you do it, and that sort of thing. And then I'll play the video. That way we give a little context behind, you know, what we're going to show.
All right. Well, you know, I basically go out and express my rights, and I look for people that would violate them. I do this specifically because I know how to redress the government for those violations, and I want to help other citizens learn to redress their grievances as well. You know, little minor stuff like an unlawful detainment, you know, forcing a person to give up their ID, which is a Fourth Amendment violation. A lot of these go unpunished because there's not a lot of lawyers out there that would take a case for so little money to be had, and there's not a lot of citizens out there with the knowledge enough in order to redress these grievances themselves through 1983 lawsuits. So basically what I do is I try to go out and you know, my theory is a lot like if someone needs to be violated, or if someone's going to be violated, let it be me, because again, at least I know how to redress them. So I'll put myself in the position that a normal citizen might find themselves in, recording at an airport, recording at the port of Tampa. I was arrested last year at the port of Tampa where they board the cruise ship. You know, I'll put myself in a position that a normal American wouldn't even think about being arrested or being hassled, and I'll see, you know, what happens. You know, I get passes a lot of times, and a lot of times I get fails. But, you know, usually if a place fails, there's, you know, revisits that I do to make sure that what I'm trying to pass along information-wise about rights is understood. And I've been very successful here in Florida. I've been to a lot of places. I think probably about 61 or 2 of the 67 counties. And I've done almost close to 6 videos now. So there isn't a lot of public buildings in Florida that I haven't been to. Sheriff's office, detention centers, and alike. And I got to tell you real quick, what got me started doing this, or a big motivating factor, was the Dozier School for Boys up in Mariana County, or yeah, Mariana, not county, but in Mariana, the city. What happened there was the boys were beaten, abused, raped, murdered, and this went on for a number of years. And to this day, no one has ever been prosecuted for any of the crimes committed to the boys there. And, you know, I'm thinking to myself, if this is what state supervision is, then obviously the state needs some more supervision, because this was allowed to go on for, again, a number of years. And, you know, no one in the state did anything about it. So I think it's time that the citizens, I consider it a civic duty. And as a matter of fact, for those that are well versed in the First Amendment and the essence of the freedom of press, they realize that, you know, the freedom of the press wasn't to, you know, gossip column or to report on Kim Kardashian or, you know, the New England Patriots. The freedom of the press was main specific point was to keep track of our government and to let the citizens know what the government is doing, so we can have informed and intelligent discourse on the policies and the direction that our government's taken. So, yeah, it's definitely something that I enjoy doing, and I'm going to keep on doing it all over the country.
Cool. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and now that I didn't want to just play it and let people kind of guess, you know what I mean? So I'm going to hit play here on one of the videos that I thought was interesting. Kind of walk us through what we're seeing here.
This looks like the very beginning of the video here. I'm at the Orange County Sheriff's Department. This again is a public lobby here. And again, just walking around, I don't, you know, a lot of people in the First Amendment auditing community kind of do push it a little bit, but I try to stay quiet. I try to just observe when people, you know, come to talk to me. Sometimes I'll talk to them, sometimes I won't. You know, as a citizen, we have the right to basically not say anything to anybody unless we're suspected of a crime. You know,
so then this guy comes at you, and let's listen to what this guy says here. Let me turn it. And guys, do me a favor, comment below. Let me know. Comment below and let me know if the sound on these videos is coming through. That's an important point. Comment and let me know if the sound's coming through.
It's good.
So he asked you to step out. You're complying.
Yes.
What law is that? Do you know trespassing? Do you know trespassing? Do you know Smith versus Cummings? Do you know trespassing? Yes.
All right, so I caught that eye roll, and everybody that's watching on Facebook and YouTube, let me know if that audio came through. But you know, he asked you specifically, you know, do you know trespass law? And you asked him specifically, do you know Smith versus Cummings? Fill people in on what Smith versus Cummings stated.
Smith versus Cummings states that we have the right to record our public officials in the course of their public duties, specifically on matters of public interest. So, you know, anything that deals with public funds is a matter of public interest, or should be a matter of public interest. You know, that would be like saying, well, it's your interest, you know, because the public funds are all of our money, so it should be in the public interest in order to, you know, keep track of them and see what's going on. And, you know, besides that case law there, again, it's the very essence of free press in order to keep track of these folks. If we had to ask government for permission to keep track of them, then there would be no such thing as a transparent government. There would be no free press if, you know, we had to ask them if we could watch over their activities. That's something that would be, you know, a North Korea play or a China play. Their citizens can't watch over their government. But here in America, where we're supposed to be free, you know, part of that effort, making sure what they're doing is what's best in our name and with our money, because it's all our money and it's all in our name that they're doing it in.
Yeah, absolutely. So here is Solo. You know what I want you to do, Solo, is go ahead and why don't you, you know, we've kind of given the intro for you, given the intro for your Rogue. Take it away. Tell us why we're here, Solo. This is going to be interesting. I'm putting you on the spot, brother.
All right, this is what I feel. I've lived on both sides of it, and even for me, I've done public records requests. I've done numerous things where the government has taken too long to produce something, and so same principle, holding my government or holding that police department or holding somebody accountable for taking way too long and then charging me for those records that are supposed to be public. I go there and every time I've ever brought a camera to some of these, like I've gone to Lantana, I've gone to numerous places, West Palm. The second you bring a camera and the second you really start to hold them accountable, sometimes things start moving a lot quicker. and I can't speak for Rogue, but I can speak for myself. I can sit here and tell you I watched records that took me almost a month and a half to get, and I got them in 15 minutes because I came in with a camera. And there are more other ways to hold them accountable. Same way with saying, all right, whether it be a post office where, some of these postal workers, they make 60, 70, 80, $120,000 a year, but for some reason they keep losing my mail. And like, I know I have a community mail system, but at the same time, I had a check that was coming in for almost $2,000, and somehow they delivered it to a complete wrong address. It wasn't even, and the only way I can hold them accountable is to actually see what's going on the inside and showing people saying, hey, it's not that busy. There's more to it than just saying, I'm just going to walk in there and I'm going to, most people have a legitimate reason. And if you look at, whether it be a Google, like, somebody's ratings on a Google or whatever, you can see the way they interact with their customers. If they have great numbers, like some post office has 4-star ratings, some have 2. Those ones that have 2, it's like, why are they giving such bad service? What is going on? And for me, I've had thousands of dollars in fishing poles and fishing gear delivered to the wrong address. And I thank goodness I have good neighbors that they're like, they come knocking on my door like, hey, they delivered this to my house. I don't know why. But I just, there is government accountability. Do some people do it the right way? Yes, 100%. And I can sit here and vouch for a lot of the auditors here in Florida, whether they're Second Amendment or First Amendment. They're good. 90% of them are really good. But there are some that do want to go after like the clickbaits, the I just want money. This is, with Rogue, there's actually the accountability on the backstretch. For me, it's usually, I don't have any. I have 1 lawsuit. So if people think I'm going out and open carrying to look for a lawsuit, they're wrong. I have 1 lawsuit. Other than that, it's going and filling out, a complaint form, delivering it to their internal IA division instead of delivering it straight to the police department. Because if you go to the police department, they investigate themselves. I mean, you could even go 1 step higher and go straight to the FBI and say, I think there's something internally wrong here, and the FBI may step involved. But once again, you still have government accounting the government, and in actuality, the people are the ones that employ them. So if they're not doing their job well, and there's documentation of them not doing it well, the people should have the right to say, hey, guess what? You could be a danger. You're not helping. You're not working for the public. I mean, if there's criminals that they're get them off the streets. I'm all for it.
Yeah,
but,
totally. So yeah. I'm gonna hit play on a quick video here. This is a video of why, kind of how we're all kind of, sitting in the room chatting. Okay. So this is a video put out by, looks like that one's gonna have an ad on it. Let's see if this one's gonna play. All right, this one's my channel. I guess this one might play. Here we go. So basically, we're here at the airport. I've just hit mute on it. But we're here at the airport, and I run into Rogue Nation. Rogue Nation is doing what's called a First Amendment audit, where he comes into the airport. And Rogue, go ahead and tell us, what is a First Amendment audit? What are we doing here?
Again, a First Amendment audit is just expressing your First Amendment right in a place where you're legally allowed to be, and then just, waiting. Usually I tell, the guys that roll with me that I'll give it, 3 to 5 minutes. I'll stand in a place where the, general public's allowed to be, and again, practicing my First Amendment right. Within 3 to 5 minutes, if no one approaches me, I'll go ahead and take off and go to the next building that I, have on my list to go to. But in a lot of these, videos that you'll see of mine, you'll notice within 3 minutes, people will come out and try to enforce their authority over you, just like the TSA gentleman came right out and was, hey, what are you guys doing here? Listen, this is Germany. I don't need to tell you what I'm doing if I'm doing something that's legal, and again, I equate it to, somebody that would be concealed carrying in a place that he's allowed to conceal carry. He doesn't want people coming up to him saying, hey, why are you concealed carrying? What are you doing here? You look suspicious, yada, yada, yada. A right is a right. If it's practiced in a legal manner, nobody should say anything about it. If it's suspicious, okay, come up and ask what I'm doing. But if I don't answer you, or if I tell you, hey, I'm just, gathering a story, then, turn around and walk away. But we're not a nation like that anymore. We're not a nation of people that understand our rights and understand our laws. We're a nation of people that get their feelings hurt and want to enforce what they think is proper. And for some reason, I don't know where the myth started, but there's this myth out there that people in public can't be videotaped, and that, you know, you need to get their permission from them in order to videotape out in public. And I'm not sure where the myth started and how it spread, but it's definitely prevalent out there. I mean, I've had people that would straight up argue with the cops after they called the cops on me, and the cops are like, "No, you know, he's perfectly legal doing what he's doing," and they would sit there and argue with the cop, you know, about it. It's a sad state. It really is, when, you know, basic rights can't be practiced without other citizens freaking out. You know, it's the same thing. I don't know if you guys remember the free range children story a couple of years back, where the lady allowed her kid to go to the park on his own, and they called the police on him. And I'm thinking to myself, geez, you know, if this was when I was a kid, my mom would have had the police called on her every freaking day, because I was on my bicycle halfway across town at 13 years old, you know?
So I'm seeing these comments come through. Can you guys see some of these? Clint,
I can't see any comments.
No, I can't see him. Clint Grease, I think he's one of your guys. But basically, so I see you in this airport, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to see this comments. I see you in the airport, and I go up to you, and I'm kind of trolling you guys, because I see what you guys are doing, and I completely disagree with it. I mean, you know, is it your right to go into an airport and record? 110%. It is your right. Do you have a right to stand there and record? 110%. It is your right. But it's not how I would choose to exercise my right. So I went up with my video camera, and I would play it. Most of the comments are coming through are saying that people can't hear the video as we're playing it. That's why I'm not playing it now. But I basically came up and I said, you know, it said to the officer, he's trying to troll you. He wants you to get a rise so that, you know, you guys will respond negatively, kick him out, and then he can file a lawsuit for your, you know, for his rights being taken away. And then you and I kind of banter back and forth. I believe that my position is that I inherently look at cops and police and law enforcement as the good guys. And I've got a couple more points here. So let me just ask you directly. Rogue, do you agree that cops are the good guys? Would you say that yes, they are, or no, they're not, or how would you classify them?
You know, here's the deal on that. Society needs laws, and society needs people to enforce laws. However, again, we have moved past that from the 50s, when Andy Griffith was a police officer. And now we're into, you know, the 2000s, where not only do the citizens get butthurt over people practicing their rights, but so do the officers. And a lot of times in my 560 videos, you'll see on my channel, I'm, again, not doing anything illegal, but the amount of butthurt, of eye rolling when I mention, you know, the Constitution and our rights, leads me to believe that the majority of them are not the good guys anymore. So that the majority of them are, you know, soy boys who, you know, just want to impose their will. I mean, there's no doubt. And I mean, even without watching my videos, just your own interactions with the law enforcement, if you've ever come in contact with them in a negative manner, most of them don't know the law. Okay, it's a sad fact. I've actually got a textbook from here in Florida from a police academy, and I've read it. There's not a lot of law in it. They've got Pennsylvania versus Mims in it. They've got Terry v. Ohio in it, and a couple other cases in it. And that's it, okay? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to give you the wrong interpretation of Terry v. Ohio. They're going to swear Terry v. Ohio gives them the opportunity to go into your pocket and grab out your license. And guess what? It doesn't. Terry v. Ohio says you can do a flat-handed pat on the outside of the clothing looking for weapons, okay? You can't ask citizens to empty their pockets. You can't ask citizens what's in your pockets. Okay. And I've proven that time and time again. In Mobile, I was detained on the side of the street. Cops pat me down. What's in your pocket? I don't remember. Okay. Did he go in my pocket? Absolutely not. Because he knew better. Terry v. Ohio only allows a flat-handed pat down on the outside of the person. 9 cops out of 10 are going to tell you that it allows you to go into their pocket. There was a video with James Freeman where he was pushed up against the fence, and the gentleman went into his pocket, took out his wallet, and, you know, swore he didn't violate his rights. You know, the government and the public education system has been put out there to dumbing us down, you know, to dumb us down. And that's pretty much the society we have.
We're at 7:30. I don't mean to interrupt you, Rogue. You made some really important points about, you know, when they can search you, but I want to go back to that point. You know, is it a correct assumption? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is it a correct assumption to say, as shortly as possible, that your position on law enforcement is that most of them don't know the law, which I agree with you 100% on that. Most of them don't know the law. That's obviously what Solo, interacted with, and that's obviously what I've interacted with my marches. But would you agree that most people in your kind of circles see law enforcement as the problem?
Is that you, Solo? Are you answering that?
That's all you, bro. I don't see all law enforcement as an issue. It's just you see some that are power hungry, or they think they have more abilities than they do. And I'm not saying all, I'm saying some. You know, I've ran across, even through my open carry stuff, I've ran across good ones, I've ran across horrible ones. It's if they started with the Constitution and following the Constitution about whether it be free press and the Fourth Amendment rights or whatever, if they could stick to some of those, especially in public places, if there's things I agree with and there's things I don't, but for the most part, I think they have the right idea, but a lot of them they overextend. Instead, it turns into like I pulled you over for your tint, and the next thing you know, you're going to jail for a felony because of you were carrying your firearm the wrong way or whatever. I think there's some oversteps. There are things that I just don't agree that police are doing now compared to, like he was saying, the Andy Griffith days, where they were really just imposing the laws that were severe. If you did something that was severe, they imposed it. Even my dad said, we used to drive home, you drinking or driving, they pulled you over, they left your car on the side of the road, dropped you off a block from your house, and made you walk home. I'm not saying drinking and driving is good. I'm just saying things have changed, and I think law enforcement has changed with that, where they got a little more hungry for something, I guess.
I agree. I mean, I'm with you, Solo. I think the inherent reason that Rogue and I are clashing, and are going to continue to clash, is demonstrated in the video that I'm about to, the clip I'm about to play. So this is the same clip that I already played of Rogue. Basically, he went into the police department. He was recording. The guy came out and said, "Look, stop recording in the lobby. You can record outside all you want." Rogue schooled him on the law. He said, "Look, don't you know about the law?" And the guy rolled his eyes. Obviously, he had really no interest in what Rogue had to say. Treated Rogue poorly, so on and so forth. So Rogue walks out after filing a complaint, and he comes outside to a confrontation. And I find this an interesting point, and I think that this kind of debuts our difference properly. So I'm going to hit play, and those of you at home watching on Facebook and YouTube, let me know if you can hear what's said here. So just to set the stage, these cops are not showing up because of Rogue. These cops are showing up because of an altercation that is going on behind Rogue. I'm going to rewind that just a little bit. Rewind that just a little bit. Over here to, sorry guys, I just hit the wrong button here. I just want to rewind it just a little bit. It was here it is. Here it is. Okay, so first of all, I am genuinely curious. Rogue, what is blue ISIS? This is the first time I've ever heard of it.
Blue ISIS is a term that a lot of folks use because they envision the law enforcement gang color as being a motivated group of individuals that are above the law. They see that line, that blue line, as something that separates the people that have to obey the law from the people that don't have to obey the law. So that's what that is about. We have this system in the country here where, a citizen could leave their baby in a car accident, the baby dies, the citizen gets 20 years. Cop leaves the baby in the car, it's an accident, no time, So there's an obvious disconnect here in the country, and the people are seeing that more and more with effect to, officers not having to obey the law, officers getting off lighter sentences than citizens. And that brings into question, who's the master and who's the servant?
I see Solo smiling. Do you got something too?
No, man, I'm watching some of the comments on the chat, and they're like, and they say they're like all blue line ISIS, and it's not that the blue line. Once again, it's the same. Like he was saying, there is that. I'm not like this flag behind me would actually be a desecration of the flag, because there's, it's got the Second Amendment printed on it. And I've been criticized for having any kind of flag that has any kind of desecration. Anytime you desecrate the flag, it's a desecration of the flag. And then, I'm not saying I know why the blue line kind of came forth, because there was a lot of tragedies that happened where people were targeting police. And I think a lot of it stemmed from like New York and Chicago and a couple other places. But to have a organized group, and that's what they're creating, is that organized group. Is saying, hey, if you're not part of this blue line, and I'm not I'm not saying all, I'm just saying some, that part of it, I don't agree with why, you know, because they do paint it on a lot of stuff. They put it everywhere. And if that's like their boys club, you know, keep that within yourself, have your club. But to put it out there on front of your door at the police station, having your blue line, if you want it on your truck and you want it on this, whatever, but on you know, public or on our property, on your property, on any of it, they shouldn't be exposing that part of them. If they want to have that club, have that club. Same thing with Black Lives Matter. Same thing with, you know, Moms Demand Action. Any group, they want to have their flag, they can have it. They can do whatever they want with it. But as a public official, I don't think it should be something that should be promoted all that.
So Blue ISIS is referring to law enforcement having the thin blue line mantra as, instead of being you know, something that the cops are kind of proud of. Blue ISIS is a comment that's made in a derogatory fashion to denote that law enforcement are more like ISIS than they are like a good patriotic community.
I don't call them ISIS, but I do see where they are trying to be in a section of themselves, whether they're from New York, whether they're from California, whether they're
kind of in a club, right? Yeah.
Right. It's a big club, and they protect their own, and just like all clubs, they will all protect their own. And that's where I think where people say that ISIS were, you know, how people determine it, that's up to them. I don't call them ISIS, but I do distinguish what that means.
All right, so I'm playing this video. Next is next here.
Guys running up like gang members looking to extort. You guys coming to extort them folks over there? Oh man, these guys don't know the law anyway. Roly-poly there, you don't know the law. He needs to go back inside and sit on a chair. No need for you 2 cents, Roly-poly.
So, you know, big cop comes out, you know, we're calling him Blue ISIS, we're calling him Roly-poly. I think that this is ultimately where you and I separate, Rogue, is that I do agree that police need to be held accountable. But I'm not sure that I see the benefit of, you know, them rolling up and you asking them if they're there to extort people or, you know, if they are members of, you know, Blue ISIS. What do you got to say?
Well, you know, that video actually illustrates exactly what I'm talking about, because what was going on in that situation, for the people that didn't get a chance to see that video yet, is that there was a gentleman and a lady, and they had come out of the store, and you know, they were carrying groceries, and you know, the gentleman didn't want nothing more to do. This was his lady, I guess, his girlfriend, his wife, or whatever, and he didn't want anything else to do with her. And she was like, you know, you got to give me my bacon back, or something of that nature. And he said, no, you know, this is mine. I bought this. This is a civil matter and not a criminal matter in any way. They were 2 folks right there. There was already 1 officer handling the situation. And then all of a sudden, yes, but, you know, as the situation's going on here, you got 4 or 5 more officers rolling up. Because what they like to do is they like to turn a simple situation like this into a domestic dispute or an assault or a battery or something of that nature. They're revenue generators now, okay? And that's why, and that's why a lot of times we'll say ISIS, because if you notice, they act exactly like gang members do. If you've ever seen a gang in action, you got one gang member over here and he's getting into a fight, and all of a sudden you got 5 more running up on you to take you down. And that's exactly what we see here. I mean, this is typical mafia movie technique stuff here. I mean, you got one guy over here, and you got Tony and his boys rolling up. Look, they're all out of their car now. They all got to get involved in this. What do you got? 5 guys there at $100 grand a piece, you know, for yearly salary. You got $500,000 worth of yearly salary standing right there because the guy doesn't want to give his bacon back to his girlfriend.
So right here, where it says watch closely for the Blue ISIS hand bump, there it goes. So what exactly is a Blue ISIS hand bump?
A Blue ISIS hand bump is to let you know, just like any secret society or gang, that you know, you're on the same level there. You know, you're there in the capacity to enforce whatever the officer that is in charge or whatever's talking about says there. The officers today, they don't come up with you know, an opposing view. And you'll notice this in any of the videos you watch on YouTube for cops. When more cops arrive, there's very few. I could probably count them on one hand, the videos I've seen of where the cops will step in and say, you know what, you're actually wrong, officer, and the citizen is right.
Valid.
They always, hands down, back the boys in blue, just like ISIS, just like the Crips, just like the gangster disciples in Chicago. You're not going to go and have a dispute with a gang member and another gang member is going to side with you. It's never, ever going to happen, okay? And that's what the blue line and the hand bump signifies. I don't care what you do, homeboy. You're part of the gang. If you said this guy was beating an old lady with his shoe, that's what happened.
Yep, understood. So Solo, let me ask you this: when you're, you're doing YouTube videos, and Rogue, you're doing YouTube videos, on a monthly basis, Solo, what are you pulling in as far as video views go? Do you have any idea?
Views wise, it could vary. I mean, recently it's been pretty high.
Yeah, I would say in our industry as a whole, Rogues, yours and mine, people are upset about their rights. So what, like a million? What are we thinking?
I'm over 1 million.
Cool. Rogue, what are you pulling in a month? I mean, you got to be over 1 million.
Most months I am. These last couple of months with the COVID, I haven't been out as much, but I've been getting down. But yeah, I definitely say, somewhere between 600,000 to 1 million views a month.
And that's huge on YouTube, because YouTube actually tracks their views a little bit differently. I do everything on Facebook. So, YouTube views, if it shows, 1,000 views on YouTube, that would be, 1,500 views on Facebook. They show them a little bit differently. But the reason I bring that up is because, our video that we did, Rogue, where, I kind of stepped up to the plate and said, look, I disagree with what you guys are doing. I agree with the reason that you guys are doing it. I disagree with the method of how you're doing it at that particular place. The reason that I disagreed was because although it is our right, and although we agree that it is our right to record and hold, police accountable, it's also my right to walk up to a cop in the middle of the street and give him the middle finger. It's my right, right? And if I wanted to perform an audit of how that cop was going to react, I could do that. I could walk up in the middle of the street, tell any law enforcement, give him a middle finger, as long as the Supreme Court says I have to be 10 to 15 feet away. I could video record it. I could make a great video of his reaction or her reaction, and that would get, a lot of views. But I disagree with that approach. Now, I think that one of the big things that you stand on, Rogue, and is free speech, right?
Yeah, well, freedom of press, which is a little bit different than free speech, but yeah.
So when I stood up and said I disagree with what you guys are doing, how you guys are doing that, I was immediately met with your supporters. Let me just see if I can pull it up here. My computer is doing funky things when I screen share. So this is my channel here. And if I'm just scrolling through the comments, a lot of the comments are saying that I'm a bootlicker, which I've never heard before. A cop sucker. What exactly is a cop sucker?
Well, again, a cop sucker and a bootlicker is people that, blindly believe, again, that the cops are the good guys in any given situation. A lot of those guys that commented on your page there made point of, asking for permission to exercise our rights. There is no permission that we need to get from government to exercise our rights. And to, to equate, asking for permission as freedom is, ridiculous on the face of the theory itself. I don't ask my butler for permission to drive my car. I don't ask my maid permission to get married. I don't call up the government each time I go out concealed carrying. Stuff of that nature. A bootlicker, again, is just somebody who just takes the side of authority because it's authority and not because they're necessarily right. We could see from the video that everybody watched and commented on that obviously I was in the right.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to play this real quick, and let's ask. I've got one question after I play this here. Oops, I got the sound turned off here.
So-called Second Amendment group Florida Carry refused to share it. Naysayers said don't do it. But on the 4th of July, we successfully ran the first ever open carry motorcycle ride in American history. We didn't have to shut down highways or use violence to get our message across. We used good old-fashioned unity.
All right, so this is just, it's not playing right, but this is just a video that we did of an open carry motorcycle ride. One of the things that we do every year in July. So my question would be, where's the bootlicking or the cop sucking in that video that I just played there?
The bootlicking part comes in when you notify the police that you were going to be driving down the road open carrying. If you notify the police that you're going to be exercising your rights, the chances that your rights will be violated go down immensely. That's not what we're out here to do. We're out here to test them. Just like when I got tested in school, the teacher didn't give me the test beforehand, so I knew. And I'm not going to give the police the test beforehand so they can pass. If they're going to be tyrants, they're going to show themselves to be tyrants. If they're actually going to be law-abiding peace officers, then they're going to show themselves as such. I shouldn't need to give them notification in order for them to do what's right.
Solo, let me ask you this. You know, being at the hand of law enforcement, right? You went out to the pier. You obviously were exercising your Second Amendment right. You obviously were exercising your right to just go and hang out with friends, go fishing with your firearms, open carrying. You know, the cops show up with guns, you know, pointed at your face, right? Two questions. Number one, do you wish that law enforcement were more educated on the subject after having guns being put in your face? And, you know, that's the first question. Do you wish that cops were more educated?
Absolutely. Especially after that day. Because once again, at that time, we had notified law enforcement for every Florida carry gathering up until that point. I think there was still a few after that we still notified law enforcement. But you know, I'm still a region lead. I'm just a leader of a certain area. I'm not a board member. I'm not in control. I create event or gatherings, we call them, to bring people together. But we've notified law enforcement, and most often than not, they went off without a hit. We've had a couple incidences where they did notify and where they were treated completely in disrespect. And whether we let them know or whether we don't let them know, they show up and they act how they want to act. And I could say that about even with me by myself going out. You know, I could sit here and I could say I've probably been to about 17 different counties in Florida. And I've had reactions in every way, shape, and form, good and bad, and I post them all. And most of them involve me giving up my fishing license. But some they're like, they want handcuffs on you, they want to put you in the back of their car, they want to friggin' do this and do that. You know, I probably have at least 2 videos right now that nobody's ever seen the light of day because I don't know what to do with them. You know, because they are bad.
So you actually notified law enforcement before, you know, these Florida carry events. You actually notified them.
Yeah, we notified the chief of police, the city attorney, and FWC.
So I've got 2 points on that. Number one, according to Rogue, that makes you a bootlicker and a cop sucker. And number two,
not my organization.
What's that?
No, not my organization.
I gotcha. But number two, the second interesting point is that what do you think is going to be more educational for people? Do you think it's going to be having a discussion beforehand and educating cops by maybe having a quick meeting with the chief of police and saying, hey, we have the right to do this, and so we're going to do this on Friday. You know, let your officers know that we have this right, or having guns shoved in your face?
I can tell you a perfect instance of that. West Palm Beach, I think it was the second time we went there. If you didn't remember when they were trying to, I think it was House Bill 809, not 809, 650 something or something like that. Anyway, they were trying to change the concealed weapons license, or no, the open carry. That was us. And that was only 8 of us out on the West Palm Bridge one day, and they tried to change the law over 6 months. So we went back. I spoke to the Palm Beach Police Department, the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office that coordinates with Secret Service, and they still treated us like they didn't directly come up to us, but they had surveillance off of a building where they had sniper rifles looking down at us. And we thought it was going to be all cordial. We were like, look, we're walking this. We gave them the directions. Even after we stopped notifying, I actually told Florida Carry, I'm like, I'm going to do this because I think it is the right thing. Donald Trump moved to West Palm. I was like, this is the best thing, just so that we keep everything. You know, I don't need Secret Service breathing down my neck. I don't want the CIA. They're already looking at me. I'm just saying, I don't need the CIA freaking breathing down my neck because I decided to open carry and not call them and show up right next to Mar-a-Lago. You know, we could have done that legally without telling them or even acknowledging it. The things that I had issues with is that they contacted my parents. They didn't contact me directly. They got a hold of my parents.
Who contacted your parents?
The Palm Beach Police Department and the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office that coordinates with the Secret Service that works for the president got a hold of my parents to get a hold of me to have a sit-down meeting. And then all we got was police on almost every corner of every block watching us, videotaping us. I tried to records request all of it, and guess what? How much of that I received?
None. Yeah, and if
I got some radio communication, but I didn't get any video.
And if you do, they're going to charge you an obscene amount to prevent that from happening. Yeah.
I would have paid it. At that point, I would have paid it because then it would have justified. It's like, look, I went and I did the process and saying, hey, we're doing this. We're accommodating everything. We're staying away from the president. We're going to be on the bridge that's like, I think it was 2.5 miles away from where he lived. Because in response to them, not us, we went there and we just, it was just 8 of us. And we just sat on a bridge and we were waving to people and we were fishing and it just triggered that whole town because they don't like Trump.
Exactly.
It probably didn't help that I had a Trump flag.
I completely agree with that. I think that the fundamental difference between Rogue and I think that Solo, I think that you and I, have a lot in common. I think that you're the perfect mediator for a conversation between Rogue and I, is that I don't think that we need to be assholes to get our point across. I don't think that we need to go and bang on our chests and, call law enforcement blue ISIS and call people that, want to have a fair and balanced, approach to it, call them bootlickers and cop suckers. The abuse that I've received from Rogue Nation over the last week is more than when I, was on the national media, 5 years ago. It's been obscene. And I think that it's highly inappropriate. I respect Rogue Nation for, his position and what he does. I respect Solo, you for what you do. I don't think that there's ever going to be a position where all 3 of us are perfectly in line with what we do. But at the end of the day, all 3 of us are absolutely patriots. Rogue has his way of doing things. I've got my way of doing things. Solo's got his way of doing things. None of them are necessarily wrong. We don't necessarily agree with everything that we are doing. However, what I will say is that in this age where Donald Trump is president and the nation is greatly divided on items like law enforcement, on items like race, on items like, Democrat versus Republican, conservative versus liberal, the 3 of us need to be leaders to the point that we can show the American people that even if we disagree with each other's methods, we can come together for the unity of the cause of freedom. Rogue, what do you say?
Well, I'm definitely down for freedom. Without freedom, you don't have anything. But let me make a quick point, if I may, about the difference between what I do as a First Amendment auditor compared to what you gentlemen do as a open carry activist. I'm into government accountability. So imagine the IRS doing a surprise audit, but telling you about it a week in advance. It's not really a surprise anymore. So when I go out to these government, for me to inform them, puts them on their best behavior, as naturally anybody would be when they are being watched. When you go into work one day and the boss says, oh, guess what? I've installed some cameras around the place. You're on your best behavior, aren't you? Same thing goes. These guys are employees, and we not only have the right to pop in and see what they're doing at any moment in time, we also have that right to record, to let other citizens see what the government is doing. There's a lot of people that can't make it out to, the city halls, even where they live, physical reasons, agoraphobics or, whatever have you. It's a big society now. So not everybody gets that chance to look and see what government's doing. But again, specifically in government accountability, you don't want to notify them that you see if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing correctly. I mean, that makes no sense. I mean,
in your experience, Rogue, are cops ignorant of the law, or are they purposely challenging your right?
In a lot of instances, I think it's them not, being ignorant of the law. I don't think, the people of law enforcement are the problem so much as the system itself. I don't think that any of them are, below the average IQ of any of the American citizens, and they should be able to grasp simple concepts like our rights. The fact of the matter is that the system doesn't want them to understand what our rights are, because if they did, then they couldn't violate them. What do you know about the private prison system, right, Andy?
Yes.
You know that they were suing the states because the states weren't incarcerating enough people, right?
This is a hotly contested issue, back and forth. When you look at this is where we're going to disagree as well. Okay. When you're looking at the systematized platform of law enforcement, I see that education and training is fundamental. I see that prior to what we're saying. I don't think that we need to go to jail to make our point. And I understand that, we think that we have to, we've got a quota, I see those as conspiracy theories. Okay. Quotas for jails and things like that. I see what we need to do, the 3 of us, is not send our communities bullying each other. I get 2.4 million views a month on social media. YouTube is like 0.5% of that. It's all over Facebook. And nobody went over to attack you because That's not who my people are, right? Nobody went over to call you names or anything like that. I think that we need to come together and we need to build a foundation that Americans can see unity. And I think that what you are doing is, you know, great for you. It's not how I would do it, but, you know, a lot of people support you. And I think that you are a patriotic person. You know, Solo, I think that you are, you know, the best of both worlds, right? You know, you see both sides, you know, of it, and you're just doing your thing, and, you know, and you're living your life. But what, you know, the reason for tonight is to sit down and say, look, you've got your, you know, we had a lake in Massachusetts called the Webster Lake, Chargog Man Chogog Chibunagungumog. In Indianese or whatever it is, it means you fish on your side, and nobody fishes in the middle. And Rogue, what I want to say to you is shame on you for having your supporters come over to my channel. You won't see that over here. But at the same time, we can build a foundation of people that believe that the Bill of Rights is not granted by the government, or, you know, we don't have to seek permission, but what we can do is we can come together and show unity. That's the point of tonight's message.
I agree. I mean, and that's what half of it. Rogue, on the Second Amendment side, we have the same thing. Like, you know, anybody that's like, oh, I believe in the Second Amendment, but we have the butters. You know, I hopped on the butter bandwagon too for a while, and you know, just because somebody doesn't agree with me open carrying, like, I don't care. Like, at the end of the day, the reason I open carry is because at the time I was almost robbed, and it was a way I could have defended myself, and I didn't express that right. I got myself out of that situation, but the same principle is I could have defended myself, or if it would have escalated further, I could have defended myself, and I didn't. And that's why I went from that day forward, and then I went straight on to expressing that right. And same way with the First Amendment. I didn't understand it. I didn't have no clue about the First Amendment for nothing. You know, I started watching Second Amendment audits that led to First Amendment auditors. And then once I started understanding the right, you know, and like I said, with Rogue Nation, he's a huge, like, the amount of law this guy, Rogue, I'm talking shit about you right now. The amount of law this guy knows is just unreal. If like, he could probably be a lawyer without even studying for the bar exam at this point. I'm talking shit about you, Rogue. But you know, and that's like, when I saw the video between, you know, I saw your video first, and then I saw Rogue's second, because I like to see what the rest of his video entailed. But, you know, and I didn't see it as a direct attack, because, like, I think you were more curious about it because it was like maybe your first experience really seeing a First Amendment audit and going through that process. And when I saw my first Amendment audit, I want to say it came from it was a guy from, I want to say it was either Michigan or something, and he went and straight up attacked the police. Like, it was just like, you know, he came up with the camera, the guy was like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, F you, this, that. And I was just like, holy cow, I could never do that. But then I saw, you know, I started seeing other First Amendment auditors. I'm like, oh, it's not just attacking the police. There's actually the education part of it about saying, hey, this is my right. I have the right to see what you're doing, and making sure that you don't overextend your rights on the guy that if you're like the cop watchers. Like, I'm not saying a derogatory meaning. I'm just saying cop watchers, where they, you know, they pull up on cop scenes and they record. You know, sometimes you actually catch things where the police are actually doing the good, and you catch them when they're doing extremely horrible. And you might save a person that could be charged with something that imprisons them for 10 to 15 years and helps them, you know, because once again, I'm saying this because I've had two experiences where I was almost going to jail until I got on the phone with a lawyer. Like, I'm in handcuffs with my hands behind my back, and I'm on the phone talking to my lawyer saying, hey, they're trying to arrest me right now. Like, they're not letting me go. They got my guns. They got everything. I'm in the back of the cruiser. And they're like, how'd you keep your phone? I'm like, it was in my back pocket. You know, like, I think, and that's like the saying that I always hear from a lot of law enforcement is, in this day and age, I think there are some things that law enforcement need to really understand. And I think it's very constitutionally protected stuff, because we're seeing politicians try to trample on it. And when they start to trample on it, it forces those officers to enforce that law. Like, you know, red flag laws or whatever, you know, some of those things are very scary, and they're putting them in the laws. And I questioned a couple officers. I'm like, would you enforce a red flag law if you knew it was unjust? And they're like, I have to enforce it. And you know, that's that same thing where they're following orders, and by constitution they know it's wrong until they've gone through due process. They go through due process and they've been found guilty. Yeah, take their guns if they've found whatever. But until that point, I'm not saying if the whole domestic thing. That once the domestic happens, yeah, I guess because you're like 75%, or I can't even remember the percentage on that one now. But the percentage is so high, that's why they do take it away. They have to protect, whether it's a woman or a man on either side. They have to take away the firearms because that's where it leads, and that's unfortunate. But
I, just so you guys know, I've been red flagged. I had my gun rights taken away from me for 2 weeks. My gun store, I was trespassed from my own gun store. Rogue, I fight the same fight. I mean, I'm not necessarily. I've been sued for my First Amendment rights. I won. Morgan and Morgan actually took me to court for a political statement that I made. So I'm right there with you. I think that I see your point of view where you're saying that it's important for us to give pop quizzes to law enforcement. The difference is I want my students to have time to study for the test before I show up and make them fail. And that's kind of my mentality towards law enforcement, is that, I want to meet with law enforcement and educate them on the law before I show up and make fools of them, because it's just, it's what I want to do. I think that we can get more, we can catch more flies with honey. So what are your thoughts on unity, man? Can bygones be bygones, or what are you thinking?
Absolutely, Andy. But let me ask you this one question about, letting your students study for the test. If I come across the officer that's, let's say, my age, 46 years old, has he had enough time to study for the test?
Inherently, I think
about the rights of the American people.
I don't think that officers know the
law. Well, right, and neither did I when I got out of high school. But in my chosen occupation, I'm pretty well versed in everything that it has to do with. And being that a law enforcement officer, it would only stand to reason that I would try to understand the laws that I enforce. Now, let me give you a perfect example of that. There's a video out there where a kid on a bicycle schools a law enforcement officer out in California. The kid's out there riding around on his bike. The officer comes up, and the officer makes like $200,000 a year. He's a supervisor, and he tells the kid, he goes, "Hey, you're not allowed to bicycle here on the boardwalk." And the kid says, "No, absolutely, I'm allowed to. I have the law right here in my pocket." And he proceeds to school the officer on the law. Now, this is a teenager who probably took 5 seconds for him to look up the law regarding the boardwalk there. When is it time for us to say, okay, you've had enough study time. This is something you should already know? When is that?
I mean, it's, in my opinion, I don't want to make a fool of one law enforcement officer on YouTube, get a bunch of views, and walk away. I want all of law enforcement changed. And I think that we can do that by building relationships, not destroying them.
Oh, listen, Andy, when the officers make fun of the officers in my video at the station, they all learn, buddy.
I mean, who are they going to want to listen to? Are they going to want to listen to Rogue Nation, who makes a living off of humiliating them, or off of somebody who's actually sitting down and having a meeting with the entire law enforcement community in a town, right?
I got an answer for that one right now. Go ahead, bro. I'm gonna let you answer, and then I want to say something.
Well, Solo, go ahead, Solo. Go ahead.
I've actually reached out to 3 different departments after they put out a bolo on me. Like I've had, and I reached back out to them like, hey, like if you really want to help you understand any part of this, I'm like, because I did the same thing. I called them, explained to them about the law, explained that I was going to be doing what I was doing, and still it happened to me. And then even after that, I was like, look, I have no ill will. Like I didn't go after them legally. And I tried to explain to them, like, look, I'm not the bad guy. Right now, I don't agree with what's going on politically. They're trying to come after my firearms and everybody else's firearms or AR platforms. I'm going to fight. I'm fighting for it. And this is why I do it. I'm not only doing it for self-protection, but I'm also doing it to say, hey, if you want them, come get them. But you're going to have a hard time coming to get them. But, and once again, I've been rolled over, and that's the part. And I say, I definitely have made a difference with the open carry law here in Florida. Between all the videos and all the stuff I've done, I have made a difference.
Yes.
And same thing with Rogue. I think he's made a huge difference between all departments across the state of Florida. He's gone beyond. I'm like only like a third, maybe probably a little less than a third of where he's been around the state. And I want to do the same. I want to hit every county. I want to make sure that law enforcement understands that people have that right. And you may run across, whether it's a handgun or a rifle or a AR pistol or whatever, you may run across the guy that doesn't have the money for a concealed weapons license or doesn't have the knowledge. And that's the great thing about that's why my channel has been demonetized, just to let you know. I don't like my channel is just up and running with just with the heart of my own soul. I'm gonna give 110 for the education because that's what it's about now. That's what my channel started out with, was education, and it will finish with that education. Until they shut it down, I will educate and get that knowledge out there about the law.
So in the spirit of unity, why don't we host an event, a workshop, where, you know, the three of us come together with our supporters somewhere in Florida, rent out a hotel, whatever we have to do, or we can do it virtually, where, you know, Rogue gives a couple of lessons of what to do with law enforcement, or, you know, something along those lines, like if you're stopped, or, you know, or know your rights, or something along those lines that Rogue feels is the most important thing for people to know. You know, Solo, you talk about your Second Amendment rights, and you talk about, things like that. And I can even bring in red flag laws because that actually happened to me. I think,
or even you can even host a concealed weapons course at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, like we could make it a whole Freedom Day, you know, whatever.
Just because I disagree with Rogue Nation's approach on some things, calling cops, blue ISIS, or, you know, calling guys like me bootlickers. I'm the freaking least thing that there is to a bootlicker, or a cop sucker, right? But just because I disagree with that does not mean that I downplay or negate the importance of the work that's being done on his channel, okay, on your channel, Rogue. That's why I'm always, I always try to put my money where my mouth is. I don't think that you and I are going to be the best of friends ever. However, I think that the fight that we're fighting is more important than the feud that we're having. And so, by demonstrating unity first, to our supporters, what we are then doing is we're showing the rest of the country that no matter what it is on these small things that we argue about, these small differences that we disagree about, what we can do is we can come together and make a big impact, in education and training. I think that would really show unity and show and fight for freedom in a way that we would not be able to do on our own.
Well, absolutely, Andy. Just like the saying goes, united we stand, divided we fall. Division doesn't create a strong front, and civil discourse should never not occur because we're afraid of hurting each other's feelings with different thoughts or different applications. And of course, you're right. It's the basis for everything. And as it stands now, the state can come and take anything up to and including your life with no repercussions. It's quite obvious to me that we're not free. And with the lies that are perpetrated by our government in many aspects, accountability is called for. And I can only see the movement growing. It's been going on for years now, a couple of years now, and people, keep saying it's dying. But as time goes on, more and more people are questioning the government. I mean, the COVID crisis alone has made soccer moms now question the government. And, people are starting to wake up. That's what I was saying to you the other day in the airport about blind authority. When we're young, we get shoved in a government-funded and approved textbook school. And, basically it's just rah, rah, rah. We're number one. Don't question authority. Get a job, go to college, have a kid, then you die. You pay taxes and then you die. That's the plan, that to go out and create a job. It's to go out and get a job. Okay. So when these people become adults and they're running around and they're not questioning the government, and, they've never taken any moment in their personal life, like you said, to get educated. I can't tell you how many people I talked to that never really picked up a textbook after high school or even college. Like all of a sudden my learning is done in life. Like the government has taught me everything I need to know by the 12th grade, and they're experts on the Constitution, on society, anthropology, psychology. There's no way that I could be brainwashed. People will guarantee you. There's no way that the government has pulled the wool over my eyes about freedom, about the Constitution, about rights. And I could tell you from what I know, that they've pulled the wool over our eyes on every one of those items. I mean, every major thing that could affect our lives has been manipulated and lied to us about. And some people see that individually. You gentlemen might see it with the gun laws and gun rights. Other people see it with vaccines and, the anti-vax movement and the government trying to force vaccinations. Other people see it through the state coming and taking their children, even though they've really done nothing wrong. There's a court case in the Michigan Supreme Court where a gentleman had fallen behind in $8 in back taxes. The county came in and stole his home. They tried to keep every dollar they made from the sale of that house, and it's in the Supreme Court now. And the state is arguing against the Supreme Court to keep every dollar from that man's home. Okay. So there's a lot of instances where people are now scratching their head and saying, Well, that doesn't sound constitutional, but not one person is saying maybe it is constitutional, and maybe what they told us about the Constitution was wrong.
Yeah, I totally agree with Rogue on that. I mean, there's a lot of things that I agree with 100%, tenfold, man, because it's we're seeing, even on the gun side, we're seeing this overstep in government, not just police, because if you really think about it, it starts at the top and it trickles down. You know, your politicians enforce this law that trickles down to the state level, and then the state imposes it on the county level, and then it goes all the way down. So I'm not saying, and once again, like I did a First Amendment audit on a beach that they said that if you're not from the county, you can't be there. And I'm like, how do you impose that? Like, is that an order or is that a law? So I questioned it, and I made a big stink about it. I audited them. I'm like, hey, here's a pocket constitution. Read the Fourth Amendment type of thing. And then I went to a town hall meeting. Same thing. I was like, I read them the Constitution, the preamble, the Bill of Rights, this, that, Title 18, U.S. Code 242 to them, and then told them about the penalties that if something were to happen for imposing it, and the next, like 3 days later, the beaches are open. Like, I don't know if I had something directly to do with that, but it was just like, hey, look, the people are starting to wake up. And a lot of this COVID stuff, I think it woke people up. Same thing with the gun spike. It was like 300% jump in spikes in like a week. Everybody was out. You couldn't get ammo. You couldn't get friggin' firearms. And then the state was like, oh, guess what? We got to slow down everybody buying guns and trying to get concealed weapons licenses right now. You know, and I think even Florida Carry is going through something with that, where they're trying to go after the state, saying you can't do that. You can't just restrict people's right to bear arms. And the only way for somebody to carry that firearm in Florida, unless they're fishing, hunting, camping, going to a gun range in their home, you know, like, I think there's oversteps. I think there's some auditors that are good. Rogue Nation and a few other auditors that I know, I think are good. There are some that I think are very cliquey, that want just the views and are doing it for the wrong reasons. But I don't, I could sit here and tell you 100% that Rogue is not one of them. You know, sure,
Well, so-
I've even said some things that were kind of pushing, egging on the police. But, you know, they egged me on to a point with almost my life. And, you know, I'm going to fight for my rights just the same way Rogue's going to fight for his rights too.
Well,
and the same way you're going to fight for yours.
Exactly. And Solo, I got to tell you, you know, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be on this call. If it weren't for you, Rogue wouldn't be on this call. So, you know, I think that what we should do is we should, you know, take a step forward, let bygones be bygones, you know, drop the feud and really recognize that we are in this fight together. It takes all angles of the fight to do so, even when we, you know, disagree. But again, showing America, showing our following, showing Florida, showing the country that even if we disagree, when we disagree, we can come together and build something great, I think is the first and most priority. So guys, it's already run a little bit too long, so I'm going to head off. But Rogue, I appreciate you jumping on here. Solo, I appreciate you jumping on here. And let's do something together, guys. Let's make something happen.
Yeah, I'm all for freedom, man. One way or the other, you know, whether we have an open carry walk and we've got a bunch of auditors walking with us just to see what happens. So.
That's it. All right, guys. I appreciate everybody joining. And those at home, please share this video. And as always, you can enter to win a free gun giveaway at andythegunguy.com. Thanks, guys. We'll see you
Later.
Hey, Sheriff County, this is Sheriff County COPWATCH. I am using any video here with under fair use if you have criticism, reporting, teaching, etc. And please donate. I do not make money from YouTube, and there are different ways to donate in the video links. Thanks.